Now that your wife is dead, grieve, pack your bags, and never come back. My son-in-law, Nathan Cole, exclaimed at dinner, and my daughter, Clara Green, just smiled and nodded. The house was never really yours anyway. I left, but not to pack my bags. Instead, to the bank, where I unfolded my plan. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. The fork trembled in my hand as I stared across the dining table. 7 days since Evelyn Green's funeral. 7 days of expecting comfort from the children we'd raised, loved, and sacrificed for. Instead, Nathan Cole leaned back in his chair like he owned the place. Walter Green, his voice cut through the silence, sharp as winter wind. We need to talk. Clara Green wouldn't meet my eyes. My daughter, who used to climb into my lap during thunderstorms, now fidgeted with her wedding ring like it burned her finger. The roast beef I prepared grew cold between us. What's on your mind, son? The word felt foreign. Nathan Cole had never been a son to me, just a man who'd stolen my little girl's heart 12 years ago. This house. He gestured around our dining room, the room where Evelyn Green had hosted countless family dinners, where Clara Green had blown out birthday candles, where memories lived in every corner. It's too big for one person. My chest tightened. I've lived here 23 years. Exactly. Nathan's smile held no warmth. Time for a change. Clara and I, we need space. Real space. Not that cramped apartment we're stuck in. I looked to my daughter, searching for the compassion I'd raised her with. She stared at her plate like it held the secrets of a universe. Clara, my voice cracked. She finally lifted her head. Those blue eyes, Evelyn's eyes, looked through me like I was already gone. Nathan's right, Dad. This place is too much for you now. The words hit harder than any physical blow. Too much. As if 23 years of mortgage payments, of maintaining every inch of this home for my family, meant nothing. As if I was some burden to be managed. Where exactly do you expect me to go? I set down my fork before it betrayed more of my shock. Nathan leaned forward, predator sensing weakness. Senior living, assisted care, somewhere appropriate for your age. Appropriate. I repeated the word, tasting its bitterness. Dad, you're 67. Clara's voice carried forced patience, like she was explaining simple math to a child. Mom's gone. You shouldn't be rattling around this big house alone. Rattling around, like I was some loose part in a machine that needed fixing. Nathan stood, pacing to the window that overlooked Evelyn's rose garden. Look, Walter, we're being practical here. You sell this place. Downsize to something manageable. Everyone wins. Everyone wins. The phrase echoed in my head. Everyone except the man who'd built this life brick by brick. You could have a nice little apartment. Clara's words rushed together now. Rehearsed lines delivered poorly. No maintenance. No worries. Freedom. Freedom. They were repackaging exile as liberation. I studied my daughter's face, searching for traces of the girl who'd once defended injured birds, who'd cry if she accidentally stepped on flowers. That girl had vanished, replaced by this stranger wearing her features. And if I refuse? Silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Nathan returned to his seat, straightening his shoulders like a man preparing for battle. Dad. Clara's voice hardened. Don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. More difficult. As if my attachment to home I'd share with my wife for over 2 decades was mere stubbornness. Nathan cleared his throat, the sound sharp in the quiet room. His next words landed like hammer blows on glass. Now that your wife is dead, grieve, pack your suitcases, and never come back. The brutality of it stole my breath. Evelyn reduced to your wife, as if 38 years of marriage was just some temporary arrangement. Dead. Pack. Never come back. Each word calculated to wound. I waited for Clara to gasp, to protest, to show some fragment of the daughter I'd raised. Instead, she nodded. Nathan's right, Dad. It's time. Something inside me crystallized in that moment. Not broke. Crystallized like water freezing into something harder, colder, more purposeful. I stood slowly, my legs steadier than they'd been in days. I see. 2 words. That's all I managed. 2 words that held 38 years of marriage, 23 years in this house, 67 years of living honorably, and 7 days of grief they'd weaponized against me. I walked to the hallway closet and pulled on my jacket. Behind me, Nathan's voice carried smugness like cologne. "Smart choice, Walter. We'll help you look at places tomorrow." I didn't respond. Couldn't respond. The door closed behind me with a soft click that seemed to echo through my chest. The evening air bit my face as I stood on my own front porch, looking back at windows glowing warm and welcoming. My house, my life, my family, former family. I walked to my car, each step measured and deliberate. As I drove away, I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I was done looking backward. Something new was taking shape in the space where my heart used to be. Back in my study, I cleared the dinner plates with mechanical precision. Clara and Nathan had left 20 minutes ago, their car doors slamming like gunshots in the quiet evening. Now silence pressed against the walls of my house. Our house, Evelyn's and mine. I sank into the leather armchair that had been my refuge for 15 years. The graduation photo on my desk caught the lamplight. Clara at 22, radiant in cap and gown, her arms wrapped around Evelyn and me. $89,000. That's what her education cost me. Every semester, every dormitory fee, every textbook and meal plan, I transferred the money gladly, watching my savings shrink as my daughter's future expanded. May 2013, the university auditorium was packed, but I only saw her. When they called her name, Clara Marie Green, Evelyn squeezed my hand so tight her wedding ring pressed into my palm. Our daughter walked across that stage like she owned the world. Afterward, in the parking lot, Clara had thrown her arms around my neck, tears streaming down her face. "I can't believe you did this for me, Dad." Her voice broke with emotion. $89,000. I looked up the receipts you kept. You gave me everything. You're worth every penny, sweetheart. I promise I'll take care of you and Mom when you're older. I swear on my life, Dad, family takes care of family. Family takes care of family. The words echoed now like a cruel joke. I reached the photo, tracing Clara's young face through the glass. 5 years later, she needed another bailout. $65,000 this time for a house down payment. She and Nathan couldn't qualify for the mortgage alone. Too much debt, insufficient credit. They'd sat in my living room. Clara's eyes red from crying. "We'll pay you back, Dad. Every dollar with interest." Nathan had nodded along, though his gratitude felt thin even then. But Clara's desperation was real. She wanted that house like she'd once wanted her degree, with complete, consuming need. I'd written the check the next morning. 2 years ago, their wedding. $23,000 for the country club reception, the flowers, the photographer. Evelyn was already showing signs of the illness that would take her, but she'd insisted on the expense. She's our only daughter, Walter. Let's give her a day she'll never forget. During the father-daughter dance, Clara had whispered in my ear, "Thank you for everything, Dad, for making this perfect. I'm so lucky to have you." Perfect. The word tasted bitter now. Standing, I walked to the filing cabinet where I kept financial records. Evelyn had always teased me about my meticulous bookkeeping, but numbers don't lie. They tell stories more honest than promises. College, $89,000. House down payment, $65,000. Wedding, $23,000. Smaller loans over the years for cars, emergencies, Nathan's failed construction business startup, $38,000. $215,000. Nearly 2/3 of my life savings poured into my daughter's happiness. Each check written with love, each transfer made with pride. A distant memory surfaced. Clara at 7, wobbling on her first bicycle in our front yard. I'd held the seat steady, running alongside as she found her balance. We'll always be a family, right, Daddy? Always, sweetheart. Family takes care of family. Even then, she'd understood the code we lived by, or I'd thought she had. My phone buzzed against the desk. A text from Clara. Thanks for understanding, Dad. This is really for the best. We'll help you find a nice place tomorrow. Understanding, as if I'd agreed to anything. As if being ordered from my own home was reasonable behavior from the daughter I'd sacrificed everything for. I stared at the phone until the screen went dark, then set it aside. Something cold was settling in my chest, replacing the hurt with something harder, more focused. They thought they knew Walter Green, the generous father, the grieving widower, the easy mark they calculated wrong. 35 years in banking had taught me things about money and leverage they couldn't imagine. Opening my laptop, I began typing. Time to see exactly what my investments had purchased. Dawn found me staring at the ceiling. Evelyn Green's pillow still indented beside me. Sleep had been impossible. By 7 a.m., I'd showered, dressed in my best Navy suit, the one I'd worn to client meetings for 23 years, and made a decision. Cole Vista Construction, LLC, sat in downtown Scottsdale like a fortress of glass and steel. I'd worked in this building until my retirement 3 years ago. Knew every corridor, every face. Walking through the lobby felt like stepping back in time. Walter Green. The receptionist's smile was genuine. Haven't seen you in months. Here to see someone. Edward Collins, if he's available. Tell him it's about a financial consultation. 20 minutes later, I sat across from Edward in his corner office. Same oak desk. Same family photos, same meticulous organization. I remembered. Edward had been my colleague for 15 years, a careful man with an eye for detail. You look well, Walter. He poured coffee from a thermal carafe. Though I was sorry to hear about Evelyn. She was a lovely woman. Thank you. I accepted the cup, feeling the familiar weight of business in my hands. I need to understand my financial exposure on some loans I guarantee. Edward's expression shifted to professional alertness. Of course. Which accounts are you concerned about? My daughter's mortgage and anything related to my son-in-law's business ventures. Fingers dancing across his keyboard, Edward pulled up files that made his eyebrows rise incrementally. Well, since you co-signed on Clara Green's original mortgage and home equity line, I can certainly discuss your liability. Home equity line? I hadn't known about that one. The mortgage payments have been irregular for 8 months. Edward continued, scrolling through data. Currently 60 days behind. That puts your credit rating at risk. 60 days? My chest tightened. What about Nathan Cole's business accounts? Edward's pause told me everything before he spoke. The equipment loan you guaranteed for Cole Vista Construction, LLC, defaulted 4 months ago. $78,000 in principal plus accumulated interest and fees. $78,000? I set down my coffee cup carefully. Walter, I have to ask, are you aware of their current financial situation? Apparently not as aware as I should be. The home equity line was maxed out 6 months ago. $45,000 drawn against the property, combined with the mortgage arrears and Nathan Cole's business default. Edward leaned forward. Your liability exposure is significant. Over $120,000 if they continue defaulting. The numbers hit like physical blows. Not only had they burned through the money I'd given them, they borrowed against it and failed to pay that back, too. There's more. Edward's voice dropped. Nathan filed for business bankruptcy 2 weeks ago. It protects him from creditors, but your guarantees remain active. 2 weeks ago, right around the time they'd started planning their ambush. Edward, hypothetically speaking, if these accounts went into full default, what would happen to property? Foreclosure proceedings within 90 days. The house would be sold to satisfy the debts, given current market values and the amount owed. He calculated quickly. There might be $10,000 to $15,000 equity remaining after all liens are satisfied. $10,000 from a house I'd put $65,000 down on. Standing, I shook Edward's hand with the same firmness I'd use in 1,000 business meetings. I appreciate your candor. This gives me the information I need to make some decisions. Walter, Edward's voice stopped me at the door. If you need any documentation of these accounts for legal purposes, I can prepare a comprehensive liability report. That would be very helpful. Thank you. Walking to my car, my steps felt different, purposeful. The morning sun was bright and warm, promising a beautiful Arizona day. Sitting behind the wheel, I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found what I was looking for. 3 years retired, but I still remember which attorneys specialize in financial recovery and estate planning. Clara Green and Nathan Cole thought they'd cornered a grieving old man. Instead, they'd awakened something much more dangerous, a former banking analyst who now understood exactly how precarious their position really was. The afternoon sun slanted across my desk as I spread out the documents Edward Collins had prepared. 3 hours since leaving the bank, and my methodical banker's mind was finally taking control. I'd arranged the papers chronologically: loan agreements, payment histories, default notices, creating a timeline of financial disaster. My old calculator sat beside a legal pad filled with figures. 35 years of analyzing credit risks had taught me to read between the lines. The story these documents told was worse than I'd imagined. Nathan Cole's construction business had collapsed 6 months ago. Not gradually, catastrophically. A $50,000 equipment loan had become $78,000 with penalties and compound interest. He'd used personal credit cards to keep the business afloat, turning family money into gambling chips. 4 different credit cards. $23,000 in revolving debt. Minimum payments consumed 40% of their income, assuming Nathan Cole found steady work. But it was the mortgage that revealed their desperation. Clara Green's house, the one I provided a $65,000 down payment for, was 3 months behind. Foreclosure could begin in 60 days. Worse, a home equity line I'd never known about, maxed out at $45,000. They borrowed against the house to cover Nathan's debts, then borrowed more to cover the borrowing. I leaned back, watching dust motes and sunlight. The numbers painted people drowning in debt, making desperate choices. Nathan's bankruptcy filing protected him from business creditors, but my guarantees remained active. They needed my house. Not wanted, needed. Their cramped apartment wasn't a preference. It was all they could afford while juggling minimum payments. My phone buzzed. A text from Clara Green. "Dad, we found a lovely assisted living place in Tempe. Much more appropriate than that big empty house. Can we tour tomorrow?" Much more appropriate. The clinical language couldn't hide the urgency. They weren't thinking about my comfort. They were calculating square footage against mortgage payments, my house against their survival. Standing, I walked to the filing cabinet where Evelyn Green and I had kept papers. Behind insurance policies, I found copies of every loan I co-signed. My liability exposure was staggering. If Nathan's debts went to judgment, creditors could pursue me fully. If Clara's mortgage was foreclosed, the deficiency balance would be mine. Conservative estimate, $140,000 in claims. But liability worked both ways. As a co-signer, I had rights. Rights to demand financial information. Rights to protect my interests. Rights they never expected me to exercise. I pulled out my laptop. The Arizona revised statutes were clear. Section 473605 was particularly useful. Co-signers could demand immediate payment or dissolution of guaranteed obligations under circumstances like concealed debts or fraudulent use of guaranteed credit. My phone rang. Clara Green again. "Hi, Dad. Did you get my text about the tour?" "I did." My voice sounded different, calmer, more controlled. "Wonderful. They have availability next week. You could be settled in by month's end of the month." Month's end, 23 days away. "Clara, are you and Nathan having financial difficulties?" Silence stretched like a hell breath. "Why would you ask that, Dad?" "Because I care about your welfare as your father and someone who supported your financial decisions. We're fine. Just looking for more space for our future. A future built on my house, my money, my trust." "I see. We'll talk more tomorrow about the tour." After hanging up, I stared at the wall where Evelyn Green's degree hung beside mine. She'd always been a trusting one, but also the one who insisted I keep meticulous records. "Trust but verify," she used to say, especially with family money. Now I understood why. Tuesday morning brought the call I'd been expecting. 8:45, precisely when desperate people call. Early enough to seem urgent, late enough to avoid panic. My coffee was still steaming when the phone rang. Clara Green's name on the display brought a smile I hadn't felt in weeks. "Good morning, Clara." "Dad." Her voice carried an unfamiliar tremor. "I hope I'm not calling too early." "Not at all. I've been up since 6. I settled back in my chair, watching steam rise from my mug. "What can I do for you?" A pause, then carefully chosen words. "I need to discuss something important with you about our conversation Sunday." "Which part?" "Well, about the house situation and some financial concerns Nathan Cole and I are facing." "Financial concerns?" Such delicate language for catastrophic debt. "I'm listening." "Dad, we're going through a difficult period. Nathan's construction work has been inconsistent and with some unexpected expenses." Her voice faltered. "We need help just temporarily. 15,000 would get us back on track." 15,000. Not even enough to catch up their mortgage payments, but probably enough to stave off foreclosure for another month. "No, Clara Green." Silence stretched between us like a held breath. "I'm sorry." "What?" I said. "No, I won't be lending you money." "Dad, I don't think you understand. This isn't for vacation or luxury. We could lose our house." Could I lose? They were 3 months behind. They would lose it within 60 days unless someone intervened. Someone like their generous father who'd always rescued them before. "I understand perfectly, but you've always helped us. When I needed college money, when we bought the house, the wedding always helped. $215,000 worth of help, to be precise. That was then. Dad, what's wrong with you?" Panic crept into her voice. "This isn't like you. We're family." Family? The word she'd forgotten when ordering me to pack my bags and disappear. "Are we?" "Of course we are." "Dad, please. I know Sunday was tense, but we can work through this. We just need 15,000 to catch up payments." And the answer is no. "Clara, I don't understand." Her voice broke slightly. "You have the money. You know you do. And we'll pay it back. We always have." Actually, they never had. Not once. Every loan became a gift through their practiced combination of gratitude and selective memory. No means no. "Dad, please." Real desperation now. The facade crumbling. The mortgage company called yesterday. "We have 2 weeks before they start foreclosure proceedings. I'm begging you." 2 weeks? My timeline was more accurate. They had less than that before the acceleration clause kicked in and the entire balance became due immediately. "Have you considered downsizing? Perhaps something more appropriate to your current income." "Dad, you can't be serious. That house is our home, our future. You helped us buy it. Helped them buy it. $65,000 down. My signature on their guarantee. My credit backing their dreams. Sometimes circumstances change." "What circumstances?" "Dad, talk to me. What's really going on?" What was going on? Their loving father had discovered exactly how much their affection was worth. Market rate apparently was one large house, an immediate disappearance from their lives. "I've made my decision. This is about Sunday, isn't it? About what Nathan said." Her voice pitched higher. "Dad, he didn't mean it. We were stressed, scared about money, and goodbye, Clara." "Dad, wait." I hung up. The phone immediately began ringing again. I turned off the ringer and returned to my newspaper. The financial section had an interesting article about the rising foreclosure rates in Arizona. Apparently, many families were discovering that living beyond their means had consequences. Outside, a mockingbird was singing in Evelyn's rose garden. The roses were blooming beautifully this year. Evelyn would have been pleased. She'd always said the garden thrived when it was properly tended and ruthlessly pruned. Sometimes the most loving thing you could do was cut away the diseased branches. My phone buzzed with a text. "Dad, please call me back. We need to talk about this." I deleted the message and poured myself another cup of coffee. It was going to be a beautiful day. 2 days after my refusal, the notifications began arriving. Credit inquiries on accounts where I held co-signer liability. As guarantor, the system automatically flagged me when they applied for emergency loans. 3 different banks, all denied within hours. Wednesday afternoon, I found myself parked across from Nathan's construction site, observing their unraveling through my windshield. He stood beside a half-built foundation, phone pressed his ear, gesturing frantically. Even from this distance, his agitation was unmistakable. His supervisor approached twice during my 20-minute observation. Both conversations ended with Nathan turning away, shoulders rigid with frustration. A man under pressure makes mistakes, and construction work doesn't forgive carelessness. Thursday morning brought me to Common Ground's coffee shop, a local favorite among banking professionals. I'd cultivated relationships here for 30 years, relationships that now provided valuable intelligence. Walter Green as I live and breathe. Linda Barrett from First National slid into the booth across from me. Haven't seen you since Evelyn's service. How are you holding up? Day by day, Linda. The house feels empty, but keeping busy helps. Of course. She stirred her latte thoughtfully. Speaking of keeping busy, we had an interesting application yesterday. Your son-in-law, actually Nathan Cole. I kept my expression neutral. Oh, high-risk cases. Debt-to-income ratio approaching 60%. Recent business bankruptcy. Multiple inquiries across town. Linda shook her head. We couldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Neither could anyone else from what I hear. 60% debt to income. That was worse than my calculations had suggested. Family finances can be complicated. I offered. This went beyond complicated. The application showed 3 months of missed mortgage payments, max credit cards. The works. She leaned forward conspiratorially. Between you and me, Walter, they're looking at foreclosure inside 2 weeks. I felt bad turning them down, but we have shareholders to consider. 2 weeks? My timeline had been optimistic. That's unfortunate. The sad part, if they'd had a qualified co-signer, someone with real assets and clean credit, we might have worked something out. But they came in alone, desperate as church mice. Qualified co-signer? The irony wasn't lost on me. After Linda left, I sat finishing my coffee and considering the information. Nathan and Clara were discovering that financial reputation, once damaged, couldn't be quickly repaired. Trust, like credit scores, took years to build and minutes to destroy. Driving home, I passed their small apartment complex. Clara's car sat in a lot, hood raised, steam rising from the engine, another expense they couldn't afford. She stood beside it, phone in hand, probably calling repair shops she couldn't pay. Back in my study, I pulled up the credit monitoring service I'd maintain on accounts I guaranteed. The activity over the past 48 hours painted a picture of mounting desperation. 7 loan applications, 7 denials. Each inquiry lowered their credit score, making the next application even less likely to succeed. My phone buzzed. Another text from Clara. Dad, can we please talk? I know you're angry about Sunday, but we're family. Families help each other through difficult times. Families help each other. Where had that sentiment been when they'd ordered me to pack and leave? I deleted the message without responding. The evening news featured a segment about rising foreclosure rates in Arizona. Young families stretched too thin, living beyond their means, discovering that credit wasn't infinite. The reporter interviewed a housing counselor who spoke about early intervention, family support systems, and the importance of honest communication about financial difficulties. Honest communication. If only Nathan and Clara had tried that approach instead of manipulation and ultimatums. My phone rang. Clara again. I watched it ring 7 times before voicemail picked up. A minute later, the notification chimed. Dad, it's me? Look, I know we got off on the wrong foot Sunday. Maybe Nathan was too direct about the house situation, but we're really struggling here. I've never asked you for anything without paying it back. This is different. This is our home, our future. Please call me back. Never asked for anything without paying it back. Apparently, she'd forgotten the $73,000 in unpaid loans I'd written off as gifts over the years. Our future is built on my sacrifice, my generosity, my willingness to bankroll their dreams. Now that the bank was closed, they were discovering what their future actually looked like. I poured myself a scotch and settled into Evelyn's favorite armchair. Outside, the desert evening was painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, beautiful and merciless like the landscape itself. Friday evening brought the call I've been waiting for. 7:30, precisely when desperate men abandon pride and reach for their last remaining lifeline. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Walter Green. Walter. Nathan's voice carried the strain of a week's worth of rejections. We need to talk. I'm listening. Look, I know we got off on the wrong foot Sunday. Maybe I was too direct about the house situation. But we're family, and families help each other through difficult times. Family? How quickly that word emerged when money was needed. Is that what we are, Nathan? Of course, Walter. Listen to me. We're in serious trouble here. The banks, none of them will work with us. Something about our debt-to-income ratio, credit inquiries. I don't understand all the financial terminology. I understood it perfectly. 60% debt to income was a death sentence in current lending markets. Financial terminology can be confusing. Walter, we need $15,000 just temporarily. We'll sign papers, pay interest, whatever you want. But if we don't get help soon, we lose everything. Everything. Their house, their credit, their comfortable assumptions about my endless generosity. As I recall, Nathan, you told me to pack my suitcases and never come back. Silence stretched across a connection like a taut wire. That was a misunderstanding. I was stressed about the house being too big for you, worried about your safety, rattling around alone in all that space. Rattling around. Even his apologies contained condescension. Interesting interpretation. Walter, please. Evelyn would have wanted you to help us. She loved Clara. I loved our family. She wouldn't want to see us lose our home. Evelyn, they were using my dead wife as leverage. The audacity was almost admirable. Evelyn's gone, Nathan. I make my own decisions now. What's happened to you? His voice pitched higher, desperation bleeding through attempted control. This isn't the Walter I know. Walter who helped with college, the wedding, the house down payment. Walter who wrote checks without question, who accepted gratitude as payment, who never demanded accountability. That Walter had died Sunday evening. Perhaps you never knew me as well as you thought. This is about Sunday, isn't it? About what I said. Panic crept into his tone. Walter, I apologize. I was wrong. I should never have suggested you leave your own house. Should never have been suggested. Not shouldn't have meant it, but shouldn't have said it. Your apology is noted. Then you'll help us. No. Why not? The question exploded across the line. You have the money. You know you do. $300,000 in savings, maybe more. What's $15,000 to you? $300,000 close to my actual balance. Someone had been researching my finances. How do you know my account balance, Nathan? Clara mentioned. Look, that doesn't matter. What matters is you can save us, and you're choosing not to. As if generosity was an obligation rather than a gift. You're right. I am choosing. You son of... He caught himself, breathing hard. Walter, I'm trying to be respectful here. But you're pushing me. We're talking about your daughter's future. Your grandchildren's inheritance. Grandchildren that didn't exist from a daughter who'd order me banished. Are you threatening me, Nathan? I'm explaining reality. If we lose this house, if our credit is destroyed, if we're forced into bankruptcy, that affects everyone, including you. Everyone except the man. They tried to exile. I think our conversation is finished. Wait, Walter, just tell me why. Why won't you help us? What did we do to deserve this? What did they do? They calculated my grief as weakness, my love as vulnerability, my generosity as guaranteed income. They'd weaponized Evelyn's funeral as leverage for financial gain. Perhaps you should ask yourself why your loan applications keep getting rejected. Another silence, longer this time. When Nathan spoke again, his voice carried a different quality. Suspicion. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said, Nathan. What aren't you telling me? Everything. My professional network, my co-signer rights, my strategic patience, my detailed understanding of their financial desperation. Good evening, Nathan. Walter, don't you dare hang up on me. I disconnected the call and turned off the ringer. Outside my study window, the desert evening painted the sky in shades of crimson and gold, beautiful and unforgiving like justice itself. My phone buzzed with a text message. Nathan, this isn't over, old man. Not by a long shot. I smiled and deleted the message. He was right about one thing. This was just the beginning. Saturday morning brought clarity about my next move. Nathan Cole's threats had crossed a line that required an appropriate response. If he wanted to play hardball, I'd show him what professional-level strategy looked like. My first stop was the public library's Business Research Center. 23 years in banking had taught me that every company leaves a paper trail, and Cole Vista Construction, LLC would be no exception. The Arizona Corporation Commission database revealed interesting details. Cole Vista had filed late payment notices with 3 subcontractors in the past 4 months. Cash flow problems, permit delays on 2 municipal projects, a workers' compensation claim still pending investigation. I printed the relevant pages and moved to the construction industry databases. The picture grew clearer. Rise in material costs, labor shortages, and delayed municipal payments were squeezing small contractors across Arizona. Cole Vista was swimming in troubled waters. AT Common Grounds coffee shop. I encountered Bob Henley, a former client who retired from the city planning department. Our conversation started with pleasantries about Evelyn Green's memorial service and evolved into industry discussion. The construction business is brutal right now, Bob mentioned, stirring his coffee. Half these small outfits are one project failure away from bankruptcy. I imagine permit compliance was crucial in that environment. More than ever, he agreed. With all the safety regulations, insurance requirements, worker protection laws, one violation can shut down a project for weeks. Interesting. I made a mental note to research Cole Vista's compliance record more thoroughly. Any particular companies giving the department headaches? I asked. Bob lowered his voice. Well, between you and me, there's been some concern about Cole Vista Construction. Nothing actionable yet, but their safety protocols seem loose, and their insurance documentation has been late on several occasions. Back home, I spent Sunday morning cross-referencing public records with industry reports. Cole Vista's financial stress was more severe than I'd initially assessed. They owed $67,000 to a concrete supplier, $42,000 to an electrical subcontractor, and had missed 3 insurance premium payments. But the most interesting discovery came from the Better Business Bureau database. 2 complaints filed in the past month, both regarding incomplete work and payment disputes. Not enough to destroy a company, but sufficient to raise questions about reliability. I pulled out my old business contact list. Retirement hadn't severed all professional relationships. Charles Newman at Southwest Insurance Group handled workers' compensation for most area contractors. Patricia Owens at Municipal Licensing had processed permit applications for decades. Both owed me favors from our banking days. By Sunday afternoon, I'd made discreet inquiries with 3 different agencies. Not accusations, simply concerned questions about industry compliance and risk management. Professional due diligence, the kind any experienced business analyst might pursue. Charles, I'm doing some informal consulting work, and Cole Vista Construction came up as a potential partner. I explained to the insurance executive. Their coverage seems adequate, but I wanted to verify their claims' history and payment status. Walter, between us, they're on thin ice. 2 late payments, and we're required to notify their bonding company. 1 more missed premium and their coverage lapses. Coverage lapse. In the construction business, that meant immediate project shutdown and potential criminal liability for any workplace injuries. Patricia Owens at Municipal Licensing had been equally informative. Cole Vista? They've had permit issues lately. Nothing major, but enough to suggest management problems. Their foreman submitted incomplete safety plans twice last month. Sunday evening, I synthesized my research. Cole Vista Construction was a company under pressure, walking a tightrope of regulatory compliance while struggling with cash flow problems. They needed every project to run smoothly, every permit to process without delay, every inspection to pass cleanly. Unfortunately for Nathan Cole, companies in precarious positions often found that small problems became large disasters quickly, especially when those problems received the proper attention from regulatory authorities. I prepared a simple email to Bob Henley. Bob, Enjoyed our coffee conversation yesterday. Thought you might find these industry compliance reports interesting, particularly the section on safety protocol violations. Purely informational, of course. Attached were Coal Vista's public records showing recent permit delays and safety documentation issues. Nothing confidential, nothing fabricated. Simply publicly available information organized in a professionally compelling format. The email would reach Bob Monday morning. He'd review the materials, probably share them with his former colleagues in planning and safety inspection. Normal information sharing among professionals concerned about public safety. Within a week, Coal Vista Construction would find themselves facing the kind of regulatory scrutiny that could shut down projects and drain cash reserves. Nathan Cole had threatened me. Now he'd learned what real power looked like. Monday brought the news I'd been waiting for. Nathan's pickup truck sat in their driveway at 3:15 p.m., 2 hours earlier than his usual return from Coal Vista Construction. Through my rear-view mirror, parked at the corner coffee stand, I watched him sit motionless behind the wheel for nearly 10 minutes. When he finally emerged, his shoulders carried the defeated slump of a man whose world had just collapsed. The regulatory scrutiny I'd orchestrated had worked faster than expected. Coal Vista's permit problems had escalated into a complete project shutdown, forcing immediate layoffs. Nathan disappeared inside their small house. Within minutes, raised voices carried through the thin walls and open windows. Even from the street, his agitation was unmistakable. Sharp gestures visible through the front window, pacing that made the whole structure seem to vibrate with tension. Tuesday morning arrived with Clara Green's scream. I'd positioned myself at the neighborhood park, ostensibly reading the morning paper, while monitoring their house from a discreet distance. The sound cut through the desert air like breaking glass. Pure anguished disbelief. Nathan had finally confessed. $78,000 in hidden business debt. The bankruptcy filing. The cascade of lies sustaining their lifestyle for months. Through their kitchen window, I could see Clara's silhouette gesticulating wildly, her movements sharp and desperate. Nathan stood rigid, hands spread in what appeared to be a defensive explanation. Their domestic crisis played out like a silent film, all fury and betrayal without audible dialogue. Clara stormed outside, phone pressed her ear. Her first call lasted 3 minutes, probably her sister in California. The second was shorter, more desperate. By the fourth call, she was pacing the driveway, voice carrying across the morning stillness. Mom, I know it's early, but we need help. Serious help. Nathan lost his job. And no, there's more, much more. She disappeared back inside, only to emerge 10 minutes later with another frantic phone call. This pattern continued throughout the morning, desperate outreach to anyone who might offer financial salvation. By noon, Nathan had made 2 trips to the liquor store and 1 to what appeared to be a pawn shop, based on the small boxes he carried from a house. Selling personal items, the classic desperation move of people drowning in debt. I relocated to the public library parking lot for the afternoon shift, maintaining visual contact while appearing to conduct normal errands. Their crisis was accelerating beyond even my optimistic projections. Clara's friend, Rebecca, arrived around 2 p.m., staying for an hour. When Clara Green called, requesting $15,000, I'd been expecting for days. The timing was predictable based on payment schedules and cash flow projections. You plan to refuse. Nathan Cole, you ordered me to pack my suitcases and never return. Did you imagine there would be no consequences for that cruelty? I moved to the next set of documents. The banking community in Scottsdale is remarkably interconnected. Linda Barrett at First National, Charles Newman at Community Trust, Patricia Owens at Southwest Credit Union, all former clients of mine. Nathan Cole was standing now, his face flushed with rage. You blacklisted us. I shared legitimate concerns about risk factors and reliability. Everything I discussed was publicly available. You destroyed our credit applications. I provided professional insight to colleagues making prudent decisions. Clara Green was staring at me as if seeing a stranger. Dad, what are you saying? I'm saying that Coal Vista Construction, LLC, was already vulnerable before I shared workplace safety concerns with Bob Henley at City Planning. Their compliance was questionable. Their insurance payments were late. Their safety protocols needed review. You got me fired, Nathan Cole whispered. I ensured regulators had complete information about potential safety risks, their problems with their own doing. I pulled out the final document, my handwritten strategic timeline. Every call, refusal, coincidence calculated for maximum psychological impact. You planned all of this? Clara Green's voice broke. Yes, from the moment Nathan Cole told me to pack my bags. I spent 35 years analyzing vulnerabilities and pressure points. Applying that expertise here was simply methodology. Nathan Cole lunged forward, grabbing the papers. You manipulative old. Careful, Nathan. You're still in my house, requesting help. He froze, documents trembling as he read my notes. You destroyed our marriage, Clara Green accused. Your marriage was collateral damage. The objective was consequences for unconscionable behavior. We're your family. Family doesn't order each other to disappear after 38 years of sacrifice. You redefined our relationship that Sunday. Clara Green collapsed on a couch, overwhelmed. How could you do this to your own daughter? How could you stand silently while your husband ordered me to abandon my home? Nathan Cole threw the papers across the room. You're a monster. I'm a professional who applied systematic thinking. You threatened someone you thought helpless. You discovered otherwise. The room fell silent, except for Clara Green's quiet sobs. Now, I returned to my chair with calm authority. Shall we discuss the terms under which I might consider helping you? Nathan Cole gathered the papers, his face twisted with rage. Clara Green collapsed, processing the scale of my strategy. These are my terms, I said. You ordered me to disappear. Now you need my help. That requires acknowledging realities about our relationship. Nathan Cole's eyes burned with hate, tempered by necessity. What do you want? First, a written apology. Public acknowledgement that your treatment of me was cruel. Submitted to the neighborhood newsletter and social media. You want us to humiliate ourselves publicly. I want the record corrected. Your neighbors watch you disrespect a grieving widower. They should know you recognize it was unacceptable. Clara Green nodded. Okay, we'll write an apology. Second, treat me with respect as a family patriarch. No more dismissive comments. No more presumptions. No more orders about my living arrangements. Yes, Walter Green. Nathan Cole said through gritted teeth. Third, any assistance comes with conditions. Follow my guidance, attend counseling, maintain approved employment. You want to control our lives. I want to ensure my investment isn't wasted on people who won't learn. I pulled out my checkbook. I'm prepared to provide $25,000, enough to prevent foreclosure and give you breathing room. Clara Green's eyes widened. 25,000? But we need 40. You need to learn the difference between rescue and assistance. I'm not restoring your lifestyle. I'm preventing total collapse while you build sustainability. I set the check on the table. This comes with reports, transparency, counseling attendance, employment verification, respectful communication. Nathan Cole stared at the check like it was salvation and poison. And if we refuse, then leave my house and solve it without me. The silence stretched. Finally, Clara Green whispered, We accept all of it. Nathan Cole nodded bitterly. Yes, we accept. Excellent. You'll have this tomorrow after submitting the public apology. Tonight, reflect on how your circumstances changed. I walked them to the door. Their defeated posture was a stark contrast to the arrogant couple who'd exiled me weeks ago. One final thought, I said. You assumed I was weak because I was grieving. You confused kindness with stupidity, patience with powerlessness. Nathan Cole glared. This isn't over, Walter. You're right. It's just beginning, under new management. You're right. It's just beginning, under new management. I closed the door, gathered my papers. In my study, I opened Evelyn Green's photo and smiled. I think you'd be proud. They wanted me gone. But now they know exactly who they're dealing with. Justice, I realized, was a dish best served systematically. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real stories of betrayal, struggle, and strength. Your support helps us bring more voices to light.